Last time I was here, I predicted that 2019 was going to be the year that iconic brands really leaned into social justice issues in their marketing. But I didn't think it was going to be this fast.
This week, Gillette's "The Best a Man Can Get" slogan got flipped on its head in a new ad that tackles toxic masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get?
And it got a lot of love.
But since the ad comes in the wake of Me Too, some men are feeling victimized by it. I'm Sarah Bosveld, senior writer at Chatelaine.
I'm Ishani Nath, senior editor at Flair.com.
I'm Donovan Bennett, host and writer for Sportsnet. Look, you can't tackle an issue like toxic masculinity during a commercial break.
But we're at a moment in our culture where we all need to challenge ourselves to be better. I think this ad is just reflecting that.
Listen, I am here for what this ad is saying. Let's redefine masculinity. But maybe the brand should also think about what it means to be a woman in 2019 and how their women's razors have shaped that.
Okie dokie, so credit where credit is due. We're just going to get this out of the way. Here's what Donovan had to say last time he was here in studio.
I think brands, whether they be sports or otherwise, no longer are going to have the luxury to be apolitical or amoral. They're going to have to choose a side. And in fact, I think they're going to find it is lucrative.
Donovan the Wise is what we call him now. So just so we're all on the same page, in case you didn't see Gillette's most recent ad, it's 2 minutes long, but we'll play just a snippet for you.
But some is not enough.
It's not how we treat each other, okay?
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
Okay, so Gillette trying to make...
I'm starting to cry already.
Oh my God.
So I know I'm really sensitive.
Okay, we'll get to you in a moment. Donovan, you sort of wished this into existence.
Evidently.
Did you like it?
Well, I'm glad I wore a different outfit, because that would have been telling on myself, because you brought up an old clip. I didn't love it. I'm surprised on the boycott Gillette outrage.
But what didn't you like about it, though?
It didn't, one, make me want to buy their product more than it did before I saw it, and I think that is the point. And two, if I was someone who was going to be a bully or a terrible offender and use my male privilege, it didn't really change my mind. Procter & Gamble actually have done this well in the past. They had a Pantene ad where they had NFL players kind of braiding their daughter's hair. It gave you the message a little bit gentler. This, I think, beat you over the head and tried to preach to you, and no one really wants to be preached to.
But I guess, there are two criticisms, right? And I think what you're saying is that you just found the ad ineffective.
Yes.
A lot of people found it offensive, right? Which is kind of going above and beyond, but you don't think it was so offensive, you just think it just didn't work.
No, I think people who found it offensive, it's a sign of the times where people are looking for a reason to be outraged, but in actuality, that's not helping. You're actually helping the brand, because that hashtag boycott Gillette has people talking about Gillette. We saw that with Nike and Colin Kaepernick.
Their product name is in it, and that's really all they care about.
And what did you think about it, Sarah? I mean,
well,
you liked it.
I was just starting to get misty. Like, I've told you before on the panel, I have a little boy at home, and so to me, I think the whole message is just like, hey, these little kids are watching us, and we have a real opportunity here in the culture to just do a little bit better, and I'm okay with advertisers hopping on that bandwagon, whether it means they're going to sell more razors or not. I think actually and we use that exact clip here, but I think a lot of men were offended about the be a good guy and break up a fight if you see one, like as if men wouldn't do that already. And so they seem to think that men, it's kind of like demasculating men, or, emasculating rather is a term, like thinking that they shouldn't behave nobly, or they aren't doing that already.
Sure.
And I think they were like, well, of course we already do that, and what does this company think we are,
And Ishani, did you buy the sincerity of the message?
You know what? We have to remember, this is a very calculated risk, right? They're not doing this just purely out of goodwill. I like the message, personally. I would rather see that than a classic old, be a man, shave, blah, blah, blah. I think at least it's a step in the right direction. What I wish I had seen is almost like a partner ad, because Gillette also makes Venus. And in my mind, I know that there's people who would say that there's some science behind, razors need to be different based on how they're used, but there's actually no biological reason you need to be shaving your hair it's been put on women for so long by companies like Gillette to shave your legs because it's associated with beauty, and there was no partner ad or recognition that they're part of the problem when it comes to women's beauty standards and what it means to be a woman in 2019. So I wish that there had been a little bit more of that.
But I guess, I mean, at a certain point, maybe, do you have to concede that your original point, which is they're a business, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're not a social advocacy
And
group.
women's razors cost more than men's razors.
Yeah, there's the
which is
pink tax. Yeah.
So why would they want to lose money on all those extra bucks they can make off women? So I agree. Like, there's a, either a missed opportunity or that could be a next step, I think.
But it's a
Yeah.
great point, right? Because is that where the bar is now, right? If you're going to hop into this bandwagon and try to make a point that, well, you've got to go the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I think so, and it's all about perspective, right? And so we see the perspectives from the women, and from a man, my perspective was, again, you didn't really go far enough. The best a man can get tagline in those ads were white males with chiseled jaws that were playing sports and on Wall Street.
Yeah.
You didn't really
Stereotypes too of
100%.
like, yeah.
So you didn't really address the fact that you have shaped what we think of masculinity and how you could possibly change it.
But I'm okay with them sort of trying to right that ship if they're willing to, walk the talk, as we discussed about maybe, changing their marketing or charging the same amount for the same kind of product. But I'm okay with. I just think that we absorb so many messages through advertising, through any kind of media, and we like to pretend that we don't.
Bottom line, I still wonder if this is going to pay off for Gillette. I mean, part of your prediction last time around was that this would be a lucrative area for companies to get into.
Yeah, and if we're using Nike as the comp, they did in the Dream Crazy ad with Colin Kaepernick, initially people were burning their sneakers, the stock price went down, but it came back up, their stock price went up 6%, that's $5 billion just from an ad, and they didn't pay Kaepernick $5 billion to be in it. So I think Gillette is making the same sort of calculation, and we're talking about them on a very watched network. I think they're winning.
I do want to take maybe a bit of a hard turn to the other topic that we wanted to discuss, although it is, as well a long-standing issue that is perhaps reaching a pivot point.
Can you describe the physical abuse? God, I can't take another day. I can't do this anymore. It shouldn't have happened. Why didn't anyone notice? We all noticed. No one cared because we were black girls.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Surviving R. Kelly.
Okay, I told you we were taking a turn. So those are scenes from the Lifetime documentary series Surviving R. Kelly. It has blown wide open the conversation around a singer whose career has been plagued with rumors of abuse and sexual impropriety with underage girls. R. Kelly flatly denies the accusations against him, although now there are reports that Sony has dropped him from their label. But I want to be clear before we dive into this. We are not here to discuss what parts of the allegations or the accusations may be true or untrue. This isn't a courtroom, right? But the series has undeniably had an impact. So let's talk about it. Ishani, and given this latest development, tell me what you think it was about the documentary that perhaps pushed Sony over the edge here.
You know what? I think, and I hate that I'm saying this, but I think in other situations that we've seen in the past year, for example, with Weinstein, we felt a connection to some of the women that were coming forward because they were famous. We felt like we knew them. We didn't know these women in this way until this documentary. This documentary made it so impossible to look away. And even that clip right there, it is visceral. The reaction that you get as a viewer to watch these women talk about their stories and what they allegedly went through, it's really hard, and you can't look away, basically.
So undeniably, there's the power of the documentary. We're also in a different era, though, right? I mean, I think of Me Too. In your mind, is that what's also pushing this wave forward?
Absolutely. I mean, it had been this open secret, and he'd been in criminal court, and of course, it didn't proceed, and he was
acquitted.
Found acquitted, and certainly went out on bail, and it was business as usual. But in the celebrity world that we live in, back then it was like okay, as long as he was performing at a high level, songs like inspirational songs like I Believe I Can Fly, just kind of allowed him to hide in plain sight an alleged abuser, I believe a lot of people said in that documentary. And I think now we've been seeing a lot of hindsight is 2020 with Me Too. Really things that should never and were never okay back then now are seen with the modern context in view of, okay, now we're going to acknowledge that this has happened, or people are coming forward saying it happened. We can do something about it now. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of the actions of labels dropping the artist, of a lot of artists who worked with Kelly. Lady Gaga is one example, pulling their music from streaming sites, apologizing. We're seeing a lot of that now, and I think it wouldn't be happening without that huge moment that Me Too brought. With really also centering survivors' stories to actually having them be listened to and believed, which is huge, because I don't think a lot of these women were believed for a long, long time.
And Donovan, I mean, not to make you make another prediction, but I mean, is this actually a turning point? And I ask that because, I mean, first of all, R. Kelly, he's been in this place before, right? When I mentioned the acquittal from several years ago, that was in relation to a very particular incident, and there are other allegations that are out there. But also, you look at the streaming numbers for R. Kelly's music, right? After the documentary series came out, they skyrocketed. So do things change from this point on?
Yeah, I mean, when you say from this point on, because this started a while ago, right? Like the first person in the doc is Aaliyah. That's a long time ago. The difference, I think, and the change, I think, is the medium. None of what we saw was new. It was well reported. If you were well read on him, you knew about it. The difference was we saw it. You said you can't look away. So the difference is, finally, I think you have enough money to do a documentary because of the Me Too movement, and people are willing to put resources into these stories, and we're seeing them not just in print, but on screen. And then you have a situation where Mute R. Kelly isn't just a small movement, it's trending on Twitter because Surviving R. Kelly is trending on Twitter. I think that's the difference, that now everyone is really a part of this conversation. Thus, sadly, people are saying, well, there's an audience for this content. So I'm willing to invest and have documentaries like this. And something that was a not very well hidden secret became big over the span of a couple nights.
But let me jump in here, just with one maybe final question, because one thing we don't really know the answer to is what happens to R. Kelly's career from this point on? Is it over or is it not over? And maybe my final question is, if it is over, will it be because record labels like Sony, RCA will have made that decision for him, advertisers, production companies, so on and so forth, or will it be fans who say, we're done?
I think it has to be both, because we're in a space right now, he is a well enough known name that if he gets dropped, he can still put out music. He has access to the internet. He can do whatever he wants. And the fans will follow him in theory. So I think it has to be both.
Okay, well, we shall see, as they say. Guys, thanks so much, as always.
Thank you.